Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. And before I begin, I just want to say I'm sorry I've not put out many videos or audio this week between traveling and being ill. It has been a very tough week for me to do this, and I'm hoping to get back on track today, tomorrow, and on and on and on, and definitely Sunday for breaches of the week. But I want to get to the news today, and we are going to be talking about Ring Doorbell. And you guys know that I have talked about Ring Doorbell before if you are a regular listener. And if you're new, I talk about Ring Doorbell a lot because they are one of the worst at violating privacy and not simply telling you about this. And Amazon has a horrible track record of actually being transparent about these things. And here's what's going on. Now, this information is coming from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. And they are a digital, basically a privacy digital nonprofit that pretty much is doing the cyber lord's work here when it comes to this kind of stuff. And they are talking about now the Ring app that obviously connects to your Ring doorbell that allows you to manage and control this. They just did a study where they took the Android version of the app and they found that it was quote unquote packed with third-party trackers that are gathering your personal information and sending it to companies like Facebook and Google. Now, here's what's going on, and I've got some notes here coming from Business Insider, but I read this everywhere, including the BBC. Everybody's talking about this right now. The study found information including names, IP addresses, mobile networks, and other information was being leaked to at least 5 different tracking services across the internet. Now, these 5 services that they found was Facebook via its Graph API. Now, Facebook was getting each user's time zone, the device model that you were using, the screen resolution of what you were using, and unique identifiers from your phone that could potentially identify you in various different ways. Another one of the services that was getting this is called Branch. They describe themselves as a deep linking platform, and they were getting a number of unique identifiers as well as each user's IP address, device model, and screen resolution as well. Apps Flyer is the third one we're talking about here. This is a big data and analytics company. They have the information that includes sensor data related to the magnometer in your phone, the gyroscope, and accelerometer in the phone as well. Another company, this is number 4, called Mixpanel, had most information including users' full names, email addresses, device information, and app settings. And finally, let's talk about Google. They own a company called Crashalytics, and the amount of customer data, quote unquote, has been yet to be determined. So God knows what Google got on us. And that is a very serious problem, because quite frankly, this is really not spelled out in the terms and services. We have seen a lot of different violations on Ring. Before I get to my thoughts on this, in terms of Ring Doorbell having been breached before by the pen test partners in the UK, they fixed that issue. A whistleblower for the Intercept came out from Ring and basically said they were running everything unencrypted. They had third-party contractors from basically outside of the United States going into US data that was unredacted. Executives at any given time could pull up any doorbell at will, anywhere. They are using facial recognition, or they're now combining it with Amazon's facial recognition and selling it to law enforcement who does not need a warrant to go into your doorbell if something happens. Not to mention, taking pictures of kids without parental consent and on as they ring doorbells. There is a massive problem with this, and Amazon has been anything but transparent. And so now, on top of all of that, they have now added all these trackers to the apps. Now, here are my thoughts on this, and a lot of this was actually parroted in the Business Insider article, which is why I chose to use them, for my notes here as opposed to others. And I did use the BBC and some others as well. But here's the thing. Most people don't realize that many apps that you're using, whether it's Android or iPhone, have actually integrated a lot of third-party trackers like Facebook, like Google. This is another way that apps monetize information by selling it to somebody else. Amazon is doing this to you right now. But here's the thing. Ring you pay for. This is not a free app, a free game, or anything else like that. And Business Insider actually pretty much put it down very succinctly, which was my thoughts. And I'm like, I have to read it from you for you. And I quote, Ring's promise of security is undermined by its Android app handing out personally identifiable information to third parties. Quote, "This data is given to parties only mentioned briefly, buried on an internal page users are unlikely to ever see or not listed at all," according to the EFF. Now, this really underscores what I'm talking about with a lack of transparency, as well as a lack of awareness that the general public has when it comes to things like this. If you're paying for a service and you are paying a subscription to Ring and you are paying for the products, you have a reasonable expectation that your data is yours to do with as you will, that you're not going to be data mined, your information is not going to be sold to third parties and all of this. And if this is buried on basically a web page or something that is not accessible to the public in terms of terms and services, that's a very serious problem. This is also why, in the same vein, Facebook now owes residents of Illinois something like $500 to $600 million, is because they have had basically a breach of contract. So you could read the end user license agreement and then Facebook would just do what they wanted outside of the scope of that with your data, without your consent and without your knowledge. And here we have Amazon doing this as well. I don't know if the EFF studied the Apple app, but we also know trackers can be installed into those as well and are on a regular basis. So these are things to consider. If you own a Ring doorbell, understand everything here is a very serious issue. You are being tracked. Law enforcement can get into your Ring doorbell without a warrant. The back end of it has been known to be unencrypted, and anybody could basically go in and see your footage, your doorbell, your location, all of these things. Articles have been done by this about this. I've talked about this ad nausea for probably the last 1 to 2 years at this point. It's a very, very serious issue. And so heads up, Ring doorbell users, your data is going to Facebook and Google, even if you don't have a Facebook and Google account, not to mention a whole other slew of third parties here, at least 3 others that we know of, that are collecting a whole bunch of information to sell your info to God knows who and to God knows what reason. So that is your news of the day. Be aware of this, Ring doorbell users. Heads up, you're basically being tracked and data mined. There you go. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.